Welcome to episode 51 of Beer with Strangers. I'm your host, Tony Russo, and I'm joined this week, as I'm often joined, by the not as tan as you'd expect, Griffin.
I did that just before we came on. So, hello. Glad you joined us. I'm giving a normal weather report. It's wet and cold right now. Unfortunately, I hoped by this time it'd be warmer. Monday and Tuesday was halfway decent, but here we are. Had snow this morning, although it didn't stay, but it's just winter does not want to give up.
Yeah, it was pretty filthy this morning. I went to the gym this morning, and that was exactly it was snowing the whole time, and it was just awful brutal day. But
and as you know, we're having a all-grain demonstration tomorrow here at Extreme Brewing. Starts at noon time. They're saying mid-50s, and I'm hoping the wind is not bad tomorrow.
Yeah.
So much, even though it's warm, some are warmer. Sometimes the wind here is just terrible. So hopefully it won't be too bad.
It's all these feels, but it is supposed to be a great day. And it's always a lot of fun. Do you have a recipe? Do you know what you guys are doing tomorrow?
I hope you didn't ask me that. No, that's tomorrow. No, we're Sean and I have been talking about it, but haven't come up with a final recipe yet.
Now, the last time you guys did, because I actually just had one when I got here. The last time you guys did an all grain brew, you did two different yeasts.
Right. We did the black IPA, and actually Jerry Franklin from Third Wave gave that demonstration.
Yeah.
And he provided the recipe. It's the black IPA from Third Wave. So he said he'd brew it here for us. And yes, we did add we separated the batch. We did a 10-gallon batch, separated in two 5-gallon fermenters, and add two separate yeasts. And it actually makes two separate beers. So you have tasted both?
Yes, and they're both good. And it was actually, I only had one today because I had stuff to do.
But most people say, yeah, it's good beer. I like this one better than that one, or
exactly.
Vice versa. It's just amazing the difference, and it's just subtle.
And if I remember, one was more like almost like a Guinnessy kind of flavor, right? It wasn't really bitter, and the other one was way more bitter.
Right. And the main reason for that, I think, is the one that was not bitter was the Abbey Ale yeast. It does not attenuate. In other words, it doesn't eat up all the sugars as much as the American Ale yeast. And hence the American Ale yeast, because it becomes drier, slightly a little higher in alcohol, but that bitterness comes through much more than what it does with the Belgian Abbey yeast.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Oh, they were both quite enjoyable beers. I had an interesting beer this week, and I can't remember where I was. I've been doing so much running around. It's absurd. I did go by Third Wave yesterday, and I wanted to talk about that real quick because they're having it's not dated yet, but they'll be putting out their first big. That's not their first one. Is it their first bottle series?
I don't know. I keep knowing they're talking about.
They've been talking about it so long, you forget if they did one and I missed it. But anyway,
they're bottling now.
Right, they're bottling now. I was by there yesterday. Apparently, no, I was by there Wednesday.
Yes.
And Doug had sold them the blue stickers, and we'll have some
blue wax.
And on the Beer with Strangers site. No, I'm sorry. On the State of the Beer Google page, I'm going to have some photos up in a little bit, and my blog at shortcraftbeer.com this week is going to be about that. Very cool. What they've decided to do, and I remember when Evo did something similar. Was Evo has a migration series, which is like one name and then different beers. And this is a little bit different, but it's along the same. They're doing the Big Barrel series, and it's called Big Barrel, and then the name of the beer. The beer doesn't have a name, so it's not like like their coffee and cream stout is called Dawn Patrol, but if they did a barrel aged one, it would be called Big Barrel Coffee Stout or Coffee and Cream Stout. So it looks fantastic. I work for new people now, and I don't know how they feel about day drinking, so I had to not have any beer because I was going back to the office. I said, actually, I'll give it a year and let them know that beer doesn't affect me. It doesn't.
Well, it's all in moderation.
Everything in moderation, even moderation. So that was the first thing we wanted to talk about. We did have a couple articles we posted up that we wanted to talk about. And the one is about, I'm going to get the name wrong, so I'm going to look. Maris Otter, is that it?
Maris Otter, yes.
Maris Otter yeast. Today's theme, if we're going to have a theme, I think is going to be about farming and its relation to brewing. So what caught your eye about, because Doug doesn't often pick the articles, and he actually sent me this out of the blue. So
it's just interesting that Maris Otter's been around, I think, 40-some years. I mean, it's all coming up on the 50, or maybe it has reached its 50-year mark, but it's one of the newer varieties. As far as varieties go, it's an older variety, but it's been around for a while. There's always development of barleys by different universities, or they're always trying to make new things, because the newer things address problems such as wet weather or fungus or whatever the case may be. They're making more of different variety of the grain, which is for a specific purpose.
But not necessarily for beer, usually for feed or cereals.
Yes. Most of the beer uses 2-row barley, which is what the Maris Otter is. A lot of the bigger breweries use 6-row, but the maltster we use mostly is Breeze, and they're discontinuing their 6-row. They say they can't get the good quality, and I'm not sure why, but they're going to do all 2-row from now on.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess maybe the bigger breweries are buying up all the good stuff, so you don't get the
right. And there's also
quality.
There's also more demand now from smaller breweries as well,
for the 2-row stuff.
Right, which is what saved Maris Otter.
Right. But Maris Otter has had some problems. All the Maris Otter we get is from England or Scotland in the UK.
Right.
And different areas of the UK have had problems with Maris Otter during some of the wet weather last year. And for the last year, we've been getting blended from one of our maltsters, Fison, which is located just northeast of London, I guess 50, 60 miles outside of London. And it's a big farming area, just similar to what is around here, lots of big fields. And they produce the Maris Otter, but they've had problems with fungal problems and not getting the yields they normally do. So they've had to blend it. Up in Scotland, though, we found Crisp has good variety of, or good availability of Maris Otter. And there's another one called Gleneagles that is also in Scotland, that's owned by Crisp. But they do a floor malting, which is more intense, but supposedly, and we have tested it, gives you much different, unique flavors. Mike Peronsky from Evolution, I think it was in January, gave a demonstration, and we malted or mashed 4 different grains, one of them being the Gleneagles and the 2-row Breeze, Munich, and a Crisp Maris Otter, and they all have unique characteristics. So if you want to change your beer ever so slightly, but have a different malt flavor, you can use a different malt.
Right.
So it's really interesting, the different flavors you can get out of a similar product, but it just has different flavors.
Now, tell me once you've been to one of these floor malters.
Yes, the floor malt. I went to Mutton and Fison probably 15 years ago.
Where is that?
Outside of London. Took a train outside of London. It's about 60, 70 miles northeast of London. A place called Stowmarket, just north of a place called Ipswich. Of course, they have all these unusual names compared to what we have here.
Right.
But went out there and got to see how they store it, how they malt it, dry it, and then make it into malt extract, whether liquid or dry, that a lot of home brewers, at least that's how they start with their extract kits.
Right.
But it's quite interesting to see how they make it. And they did have a floor malting, or just room about the size of what we're in here, that after they steep the grains to get it wet so it will start to grow, they stack it on concrete blocks, walls and concrete floor, they would stack it on one side, and about every 6 hours to 8 hours, they would take and shovel it from one side of that room to the other. Floor malting, now it was just in a room, and they had a shovel. Floor malting means they have some kind of a bigger room,
Right.
and have some kind of a rake that they walk around, and shoes generally that with spikes or something on, so they don't crush it. Yeah, and they walk around, and it turns it over. So you have to do these. You have to agitate it somehow, or move it somehow, so that it changes its position on where
So
it
it doesn't get moldy or
touch the other grain, other kernels. So yes, so it doesn't get moldy. It has some airflow through it.
I get Cigar Aficionado magazine. My father sent it to me, but they have Scotch ads in there, and all the Scotch ads, they're not the bottle. They're these rugged old guys with these huge shovels standing in piles of grain. So I guess floor malting must be the preferred method for Scotch whiskey.
They floor malt it, and then they dry it with heat, but depends upon whether they use coal or peat to dry it, gives you these different flavors.
Right.
And it depends upon where it's grown and how it's malted. You can get different flavors out from just the grain itself, plus the drying media will influence the flavor.
Is there a peated beer? Have you made or heard or had
Yes.
a peated beer?
Yes. In fact, I had one last night. We went down to Wallops Island. About every 4 months, they have a morale building get together.
Right.
And, over the last year, they've been getting homebrewers to come from the facility there, and then they all get together and judge the different beers they have. Sean did the judging last night. I had to drive, so. But I guess there were 30 different beers to taste.
Wow.
And then they give prizes for that, and everybody. They had about 150 people come. And if you don't like the home brew or what the brew of the season is, they also had some commercial stuff. Evolution was there. Third Wave was there. OCHMRA was there with samples to taste.
That's fantastic. I would like to come. I was working, as I was saying, when I got here.
July is the next one,
crazy.
supposedly, from what I've heard.
If they have another one and I can come, I'd
About
love to
every
come
4
down
months.
and just take some pictures and maybe even do a story about it for one of the magazines. That's a fun story. I mean, that's, rocket scientists drinking beer. It's beer and rocket science.
Well, maybe we'll do a podcast from there.
We could maybe. I don't know if they have internet.
Yeah.
It's funny because NASA Wallops Island, for those of you that don't know, is in the middle of one of the more. We live in a very rural area, and this is even more rural. So many of the places that aren't on Wallops Island don't have like real internet or real cable, or many of them have satellite dishes and stuff like that. It's really, really out in the middle of nowhere. But I assume that they probably have.
I would think
internet access.
Yeah, they do. But I don't know if in the rec area where we are,
right,
they do or not.
Or if they would let me plug into it. Yeah. But it doesn't matter. Those are all things we could talk about. But it'd be fun to do.
It was a very nice get together last night, and we got to taste some good beers.
And on that note, when you hear this, hopefully you'll hear it. Thanks to our friends who are at Wallops Island, and I don't remember your names, guys, but I appreciate you reaching out and saying, hey, stop just doing the podcast on video because we like to listen to it on the drive. It's like an hour commute. And they listen to podcasts, and this is one of the ones they used to like to listen to until, for long, boring reasons that you don't want to hear, we went strictly to video. I was having trouble finding space, and I was having trouble getting... the trouble was, just in case you're watching this for podcasting reasons and not for beer, we weren't hooked up directly to the wall. And since we were doing video over Wi-Fi, the sound quality was as bad as this sound quality is today. There, that's better. Anyway, the sound quality wasn't great, and it was very digitized. Our voices sounded horrible, but I believe I've solved that problem. And as long as we plug into the wall and I run it through this filter that I have, we should be up and running and back on voice podcast by the beginning of April.
Plug it into the wall means it's on cable,
right? Cable,
courtesy of Comcast,
right? Well, not courtesy of Comcast. It's not like
well,
it shows
no,
them,
but through Comcast.
Do you know my I have a buddy in people in New Jersey. They have like 5 or 6 different cable providers to choose from, and when somebody bumps their rates up, they're like, okay, I'll just switch.
Well, we've got 2, MediaCom and Comcast.
And we don't have any. I just have one.
But I don't know. I don't think Comcast or MediaCom comes through here, so I got probably no choice.
Yeah, exactly.
It's maybe Verizon is through here with Fios.
No, Fios is not here yet. They have DSL. When Fios comes, I'm jumping over that. Fios is better because it's newer, and now we're going to talk digital technology. We're just beer with digital technology. Well, you know about that. I mean, you can talk about that. I can't. I can only repeat things that Doug says. That's why people think I'm smart. Okay, so that was story number 1. We wanted to talk about the malts. Oh, I'm sorry. I wanted to ask you because I remember you mentioning it to me a malt that went out of business. You said the grocery store malt went out of business. They stopped carrying not too long ago.
Blue Label, or I mean, yeah, I don't forget how long ago that was, but it was Blue Label, Blue Ribbon.
Blue Ribbon with the Blue Label?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know. That used to be back, I think, in the 30s and 40s. People could buy that in the grocery store, and that's what they made beer out of.
I would love to see about getting what kind of malt that was, or figuring out what was different about that, because I was approached by a woman. I was at an event in East Newmarket, Maryland. And it was an Indian artifact event, but I was there hawking my beer books because they invited me, and I'm lonely. So I'm there, and this poor me. But this old lady comes up and she starts talking about her parents.
Blue Ribbon.
Blue Ribbon.
Yeah.
Her parents were from Czechoslovakia, and they didn't like American beer, so they make their own beer, and they would spend all day or all weekend, let's say, one summer. They would brew enough beer for the year. They would just brew and brew and brew and brew and brew and brew. And they would get the malt from the grocery store, but they hated the American hops that they were growing. They liked to get this Czechoslovakian hops.
Price.
Is that what it is? Yeah. Of course you know what it was.
That's generally what they use. That's what they call the original Pilsner Well from Pilsen, Czechoslovakia.
Oh, really?
That's primarily, from what I understand, is what they use in their main beer. It's nothing but Pilsner malt and Saaz hops. Well, and whatever their lager yeast is. That
what she was telling to me was that they couldn't get it here at the time, because this is maybe in the 40s, or she was very old. It could have been in the 30s, because she was also one of those like hardy country women where like, okay, I know you're over 50, but if you told me you were 120 now, I'd believe you, because. But anyway, so eventually they got their relatives to mail them.
Wow. To
ship them hops so they could make their beer the way that her grandmother liked it. And I thought it was awesome that her grandmother didn't like the American hops in her beer.
Amazed that actually then the Blue Ribbon malt that they got was acceptable. That's great.
Yeah.
So.
And that's what she was saying. They'd go to the grocery store to get the malt.
Yeah, that's the heavy stuff.
Yeah. I don't know what that means.
It weighs.
Oh, I mean, right. Well, yeah, that's probably why they didn't ship it. You can ship hops.
The hops been much lighter, and you don't use near as much in poundage as what you would for the malt. The malt, especially if you're making a year's worth in a sitting. And they would lay the bottles up in the barn to condition. So wow.
I guess it didn't get too hot. I guess in the barn maybe it wouldn't get. I don't know. Because it can get too hot, right?
Maybe by the time they make it in the summertime and ferment it and they got in the bottle, it may have been in the cool time of the year.
If they did it in the fall, maybe.
Got it into the barn.
That's crazy. So anyway, I gave her my card because they're having their family papers translated because she doesn't speak Czechoslovakian.
But maybe the barn also had a basement in it though too.
Oh, could be, yeah. She just said we laid it up in the barn. And I figured like it was up in the barn.
Yeah. But up in the barn could have meant the barn was up the hill.
Like over yonder.
Yeah, right.
But but she's having her family papers translated, and she said when she gets it back, if there's a beer recipe, she will give it to me.
Oh, great.
I told her
We'll
that I
make
knew
it.
people who could make it. She's like, "Do you make beer?" And I always say 100 times, "People, do you make it?" No, I don't. I hang around with people who are already very good at making beer. So all I have to do is talk about it, which is a lot easier. So that was our hop story, and that was our
Malt story.
And that was our digital story. And then we also wanted to talk about there's another story about farming and craft beer that we put up on the site, and it's about how like farmers, small and mid-range farmers who need another outlet for things to grow and sell are now being able to sell to small breweries or to even mid-sized breweries, all the things they make. And it's not just it's not barley. I mean, it's often not barley.
It can be.
It can be barley.
Some of these barleys can be planted in the fall, and they get their root system going so that when they do get warm weather in the spring, by late May, maybe even June, they can harvest and still get another crop in. So they can double crop, which always helps profits.
Yeah, when you're a farmer. Well, that's what they're doing out in Snow Hill for Brian's brewery. They're doing this the Charles variety of barley. They're making
winter
that,
barley, yeah.
And they're still having. Are they trying to? I lost track. I've actually lost touch with those guys over there because I work so far away now. But the last I heard, they were having trouble. They were trying to figure out how to malt it themselves because.
I have not heard any more about that.
Because they got the barley right, but getting it malted is prohibitively expensive. They have to spend thousands of dollars to ship tons of barley to either North Carolina or Massachusetts. Yeah. I thought they were doing it in Massachusetts, but somebody said that North Carolina or South Carolina was doing it.
But the Marvin United Home Brewers, on the malting note, had a maltster from just outside of Philadelphia come down last
that's
meeting.
Right.
And we were away, couldn't go, but they came down, brought some barley just for people to taste. But it's on the pricey side. It was $1 something a pound, $1.50. No, it's more than that. $3 and something a pound, I think it was. It's prohibitively expensive. But if you want something that's unique and local, right. I think some of the distillers are using it more so than the breweries are. But
the more people who do it, the price will come down.
Hopefully, yes.
And that's what we're seeing in other parts of the farming market, and that's why I'm interested in it, because in the farming market, like organic stuff used to be outrageously expensive. But two things happened. More people started buying organic, so the price started to come down, and then the price of non-organic, right. Yeah, and more farmers got involved, and then the price of hauling stuff across the country got more expensive. So they're getting closer, and it's a little bit easier to make the decision to get local food. Like for my family, like I can get a lot of stuff from local farmers. We get
all the farmer market that's starting to open up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've got we go to a local butcher, and we get rabbits there, which is just wonderful.
Okay.
God, I love rabbit. So we get rabbits from the local farmer, and they are not as pricey as they would have been, 10 years ago, right? A chicken there is still going to cost you, I think, $8, $6 or $8 for a smallish chicken that you probably get for $3 or $4 in the store. But what we do is we just have less chicken, right? And we have less chicken, and we get it from the guy, and that's what.
So I'm curious. How's the rabbit?
Oh, it's fantastic.
Oh, okay.
Oh, it's fantastic. My wife does it.
These are all domestic rabbits that have been
raised for slaughter. I mean, I assume
I used to go out rabbit hunting, and these are probably a little less intense flavors or a little less gamey.
It tastes like
chicken.
Pork. It tastes like pork and chicken. Like it's got a little bit more. It's a little maybe that's the gaminess. It's a little bit more hearty than chicken. We love it in our family. We make it kind of a fricassee with my wife fries it real quick in flour, and then bakes it in the oven.
Oh, sounds great.
Oh, it's fantastic. Fantastic stuff. But anyway, so now I can, I spend a little bit more and I get a little bit better quality. And as great as people start to, we need a malter here soon. I mean, if that was a business I could do, I would open a maltery here. Because
somebody told me that the malt around here is not the best, and I don't know this for a fact. Maybe, Brian Brushmiller, because he's been doing it. But somebody told me that there's a fungus on the malt that's grown here that if you bottle it, it'll eventually foam up over time. You can't keep the foaming from occurring. And I don't know if that's true or not.
Well, it could be something that they have to come that they have to get.
Maybe the variety that they use has overcome that too.
Well, that's what the variety that Brian is using was developed. I mean, was developed to be grown here over the winter, but not necessarily for beer, which can be a little bit more sensitive than, for instance, a chicken.
I know the University of Maryland Extension Service had done some testing. I know 10 or 15 years ago. Now that may be the same barley that they're using. Maybe they further developed it.
They work on this stuff. It's crazy. That there are my daughter's actually involved in it in school. There are soil scientists and plant scientists who just are trying to always trying to upgrade. But even if there weren't, the grain trucks are coming through here. Why come through empty? We're sending them to places where they don't have these kind of
bring something back.
Bring it back. So, I mean, that's pie in the sky kind of stuff. But it'd be cool to see. And the point is now it feels more possible. I mean, there's clearly been a disruption that is permanent. We may lose some brewers, we may pick up some brewers, but craft beer is comfortable now. It's a comfortable thing, and people are getting good at enjoying beer, and that just makes it better for everybody.
I think the craft beer, the main thing is just got more flavor and the variety. If you like variety, we've got more variety these days than what we've had for a long, long time. And
if you are around, we're going to get ready to wrap it up. But if you are around, you should definitely come for the all grain tomorrow. And you also, if you're interested in beer, if you're interested in brewing, definitely. But also, if you're just interested in tasting beer, you really should try this side to side 2 yeasts things, because
black IPA.
It's just for many people. I had this moment actually a couple years ago, but here with Doug. I mean, but for many people, an experience like that will get you thinking about, that's why I like or don't like beer. Like if you have two things that are essentially the same but taste different, that's how you can start to learn to talk about the different tastes and why one thing is better than another, why you like one better than another. Once you learn what's different, you learn the language of discussing.
Well, we like to point out just those differences of the flavor, but one of them is one of the yeast is what is probably in half of our kits, a very common yeast, USO5, I would say, California ale yeast was originally developed by Sierra Nevada, and it's become the Chico or the standard for a lot of American beers and breweries. That was the yeast we used, and we have a new one in from a Belgian style, an Abbey ale yeast. But I like to point out that if you like the newer yeast and you've always used this other yeast in your kits, you might want to substitute that newer yeast for one of the yeast that you've always used in your kit and see if you like the beer that much better.
Right, it's the same recipe. You don't have to learn a new recipe. You just change one thing. You've talked about that before. Change one thing until
if you change too many, you may make a great beer, but you may not be able to duplicate it. Change one thing at a time, but yeast is easy to change, and it's amazing the results.
Do you know off the top of your head if you have any more classes coming up?
No. I do, but I don't. I don't know. I did not look today.
That's fine.
And my wife and I have been talking. In fact, she sent me something today, and I did not get time to look at it for future classes. So we'll have more coming up, and they'll be out on the web shortly.
Very cool. Well, you can check all that out on extremebrewing.com, XTREME brewing.com, or EXTREME brewing.com. both of them will get you to the same place.
E or an X.
Yeah. And of course, as always, as we like to say, comment if you please, or reach out. If you'd like to be on, we'd love to have you on. If you'd like to participate, I hope no one tried to participate. I just realized I didn't turn the participation section on today. Let's see if there's anybody there. Yeah, there are no questions, or no one was able to ask questions. I don't know. We were a little bit rushed today. I got a kind of a kooky start. Also,
we got delayed too because of the thing last night. We went to at Wallops Islands.
Yeah, so it's
today Friday instead of Thursday.
Right, we're a little off our game, but that's just par for the course around here. So yes, Beer with Strangers at Beer Strangers on Twitter. We're starting to use that again now. So you can follow us. We'll tweet all the links to the shows. We'll tweet all of the stories we talk about, and we'll tweet other things that we think are cool about beer for you guys to see. At the website is the same thing, beerwithstrangers.com. You can get all of our stuff or links to us socially where you can follow us, Twitter, Facebook, all of those things. I came up with what do you think of this for an ending? How about Keep the Faith? Do you ever say Keep the Faith?
Keep the faith?
No?
Not much, no.
I just rediscovered it recently.
No.
I frankly, I was sending...
Keep the beer?
Keep the beer. All right, keep the beer. Keep the faith, keep the beer. But we will catch you guys next week.
Thanks.